Hi and welcome back to your mat. My name is Anna, the whollyogi. Today I'm bringing you a class to help release your quads and hip flexors. These areas can get really tight, especially if you do other types of activity like lifting or running or biking. So releasing them is important so that we can stay balanced in our bodies. Today all we'll need is 2 blocks and a strap. If you don't have anything specific to yoga, like if you don't have these props, that's okay. You can make do with something else. A belt might work, a scarf, even a blanket that has length to it can work in place of a strap if you really are desperate. Okay, so we'll get started on our backs today. Make sure that your block, or at least one of them, is within arm's reach when you come down onto your back. And we'll start with those feet in the floor, knees bent, and shoulders and head rooted to the floor. So just check, find hip width distance with those heels. Fingertips can just brush the backs of the heels. And find this supported rest with our knees bent and our eyes can close down. And take a few breaths, settling into the practice. Whatever came before, whatever comes after, set it aside so that you can be present to just what is right now. Feel the body, scan through, notice if there's anything that you already feel in the hip flexors and quads. Maybe fatigue, maybe even tightness. Just trim this bend. First movement we will take, keep those hips where they are, but then just rotate those knees up and over to the left, and maybe the right hip lifts. Maybe feeling a stretch in the right quad, and maybe into the hip flexor. And then bring those knees up and over to the right. If there are any props in the way, just move them out. And bring them up and over to the left. And up and over to the right. Up and over to the left. Up and over to the right. And then let's bring those knees up through center. And let's hug those knees into the chest. Hands come to the shins. And let's just take some big circles out in those hips. Seeing how the hamstrings and hips feel these first few moments of our practice. Good. Next time those knees are into center, hug them in, and then let both feet come flat to the floor again. We're going to find one block, press into the heels, and let's slip this block underneath the small of the back on the lowest setting. So place that block on the mat. Then place that low back on the block. It should feel like a book resting on a shelf, nice and flat. You're not tilting or awkwardly holding here. It's nice and sturdy. Now from here, you can stay here for this release in the pelvis over the block, or if it's comfortable and it feels like it serves you, you can extend one leg and maybe the other as well into an extended bridge with the hips elevated on this block. Working into the front of those hips. Make sure you're breathing, embracing this stillness. you're breathing pretty steady here and would like to come a little bit deeper, let's pull this left knee into the chest and maybe find it with the left hand. Feeling maybe a stretch in the right hip flexor a little deeper, getting into the psoas. One more breath here with that left leg into the chest. And on your exhale, release it out. Good. From there, find central, neutral with the spine of the body. And then maybe bring this right knee in and take that knee into the hand. Finding this stretch on the left hip flexor, deeper into that psoas. Good. Take just a couple more breaths here. And let's put that right foot back down. Let's put it flat in the floor and then draw the left foot to meet it. Let's press into the heels, lift the hips up into a bridge and smooth this block off to the side. Now from there, I want you to stay in your bridge. We're just going to take 10 lower end lifts here. We're not doing this to get fiery. We're doing this to simply activate these muscles that are necessary to help stretch the hip flexors on the front of the body. So lift and lower, nice and slow, lift and lower, lift. We're squeezing the glutes at the top and lower, lift and lower, lift and lower, lift and lower, lift, lower, 2 more, lift, lower, last one, lift and lower. Good, and from there, let's bring ourselves into a little ball, hands behind the thighs, rock ourselves up along the spine. And let's come up into our forward fold. So pull those heels into the bum, place those feet down and rock up and over into your fold. Now knees are bent, head, neck, shoulders are hanging. We're resting the tummy on the thighs. Press those palms down, step yourself back to plank. Lower those knees and pull those hips back to the heels. We're going to stack shoulders over hips. Maybe scooch a little farther forward on your mat and bring those feet wider so that you can put the glutes down between the feet on the mat. If that's too much for your knees and you feel any type of discomfort, come back to your heels with glutes stacked right on top of heels. Okay? I'll offer both variations as we progress into hero. So if your glutes are on the floor, feet are a little wider, we're going to start walking back and feeling this stretch in the quads. Make sure you keep those knees connected to the floor here. We don't want them lifting up. And maybe come down to our forearms, working our way there. Maybe adjusting the glutes if they're feeling a little bit tucked. And maybe only You can get to your forearms or close to, even if your bum is stacked on your heels. So at this point, you're just leaning back if your hips are on top of your heels, and you should feel a stretch in your quads. Again, keep those knees connected to the floor. If your feet are a little wider and you feel this connection with the glutes to the mat, engage the core, protect that low back. We never want to feel pinching in the low back as we move into this pose. Maybe you come all the way down to your back. So those two places, the knees and the low back, we don't want to feel any weird pulling or tension. The 3 P's: pain, pinching, or pulling. Listen to your body. Wherever you are in your hero, whether you're down, whether you're leaning back on your forearms or your hands, imagine cinder blocks on the knees, keeping them rooted, stretching out the front of these muscles and up into the hip flexors. As you settle, you should feel your body begin to find more space that you can move into. Even if it's minuscule to begin with, over time, you'll be able to move into that space. We're holding here for just a few more breaths. Nice. And if you're down on your back, I encourage you to take this one step at a time if you're on your forearms, also one step at a time if you're on your hands. Walk yourself up, shoulders over hips. If you're down on your back, let's together come first to our forearms, coming out the way that we came in. And then press up to the hands, being very gentle as you transition here. And then come up and over onto our hands and knees, coming into our table. In our table, let's sway these hips left and right, getting into those outer hips, loosening up that whole area so we can get the most out of these stretches. Okay, before we come into our lunges, let's come through neutral, reach the left foot back, tuck the left toes down, push the left heel back into a calf stretch. Neutralizing that leg after being folded up in our hero. And take that left foot forward. And let's draw that left foot out wide to the right edge of the mat. Tuck the left knee behind the right knee, open the feet, and pull yourself back into half Gomukhasana. Feel the stretch in the hips, the glutes, Head is hanging between the arms. And bring yourself back up through your table. Reach that left leg back and bring that left knee down. Good. From there, let's reach the right foot back, tuck the right toes down, push that heel back. And kick that heel forward and bring this right foot over to the left edge of the mat. Tuck the right knee behind the left knee, open the feet, pull the hips back. Good, then bring yourself back up through center in your table. Reach that right leg long behind you, tuck it down into your table again. Let's take a cat-cow here, creating space in the spine, opening the chest and then rounding away from the floor and coming back to neutral. From here, let's reach this left leg back behind us and pulse that heel towards the sky for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Curl that left heel into the bump. Hold. Pulse 10 more times. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And tuck that left knee in and step it between the hands. Here's where we'll need these blocks. Bring these blocks to stack underneath the hips and shoulders stacked on top of the hips. So we're nice and aligned. Arms are going straight down from our shoulders. We're not leaning forward here. Our blocks are allowing us to stack right up and over. So here we're getting into this stretch on the right quad and hip flexor. You might also feel it in the back of that left hamstring. If you're really tight, it's mainly that right hip. We're going to hold here for a few breaths, getting into this right hip. And rather than going all the way to your edge, I want you to come out about 5% away from it. There's a little bit of activation through the left heel, a little bit of activation between the thighs, pulling towards each other. We feel it, but we're not at full tilt. Good. From here, keep those hands on the blocks. Pull the hips back to the heel. Flex the left toe towards the face, keeping that left heel down where it is so that we can just rotate between our low runner's lunge or half split and our low lunge at the top of the mat. So notice my shoulders restack, and then as my hips pull back, they pull forward. We'll move through this a few more times, pulling forward and back, forward and back. Beautiful. Let's come forward and let's find our lunge. From here, I want you to lift this right heel towards the right bum as much as you can without pulling the hips back like this. I want you to keep your hips forward in your lunge. You're lifting that right heel and putting it back down without those hips moving. So we're lifting and lowering, lifting and lowering, lifting, lowering, lifting, lowering. Now here's where we'll need our strap. So I want you to find your strap. You're going to connect it around that foot and pull with that strap up and over that right shoulder for a quad stretch here. This will probably feel pretty tight for you because we're matching the strap tension with the already tension we're feeling in our lunge. You can support yourself on that left block with the left hand. Good. Release that strap down, release the foot down. Find just one more moment of stretch in that lunge. And let's pull ourselves back into our table. Push these blocks off to the side, move the strap off to the left side where we'll need it next. Hands under shoulders and take a cat-cow. Beautiful. In between sides, let's walk our hands forward. Let these hips hinge down and lift the shoulders over the wrists for an up dog. Now this is a passive up dog. We're not actively pushing into the tops of the feet and lifting the legs off of the floor. The thighs are on the floor, hips are lifted, shoulders are lifted, and we might even feel this stretch in the quads, the hip flexors, and the core, the abdomen. If we feel any pinching in the low back, lengthen the spine and come down closer to the floor a little bit. Good, then bring yourself up and back into that table. And we'll take the other side. Let's bring this right heel back and pulse that foot. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pull that right heel into the bum. Hold it like you're squeezing that tennis ball between your calf and your hamstring. Then pulse that knee to the sky higher. 10, 9, 8, 7. Tiny movement. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then exhale, knee to nose, step this right foot between the hands and get set up in your low lunge with your blocks on this side. So shoulders over hips, hips stacked right over those blocks, arms are straight down to the blocks. And from here, we'll take this low lunge and then transition back to our half split or runner's lunge, flexing that right foot towards the face. And pull it forward into our lunge. And pull it back. Pull it forward. And back. And forward. And back. Beautiful. Next here, I want you to bring yourself forward into this lunge. If this bugged your knee at all on the other side, You could put a blanket underneath the left knee to cushion it a bit more. We're going to bend this left heel into the bum as much as we can before that quad stops us. But don't move the hips back. Notice my hips didn't move. I'm just moving from that left heel to my left knee, and then put that back down. And pull it in. And put it back down. Put it in. Keep your core engaged. Embrace that core so that you can support that low back. 2 more. Pull it in. And lower down. Pull it in. And hold here is where we're going to need our strap to hook around this left foot. And pull that strap up and over that left shoulder to hold this stretch. A little bit more passive. Right hand can be supporting you on that block on the right side. The strap might not pull it all that much farther. It's just helping hold it there so that the hamstring isn't doing all of the work. Breathe. Good. 2 more breaths. Keep it steady. Even where there's tension, try not to rush. And release. That foot, release the strap. And let's find our stretch in this lunge just for 1 more moment. Good, and then pull yourself back into your table again. Move those props off to the side. Let's take our hands down in front of us for a table. 1 more cat-cow. Look forward and up. And exhale around the spine. And come back to neutral. Walk these hands forward. Drop the hips down into that passive up dog. Maybe take a little bit of a wiggle here, finding that stretch. Avoiding any pinching, pulling, or pain in that low back. This should feel therapeutic. Good. From there, let's bring ourselves up and back. Keep those knees together, feet together. Pull the hips back into a child pose for that low back, forehead down, arms reaching forward. Good, then walk yourself on up. Let's take our hips off to one side, heels off to another. Come down onto our backs, keeping those props nearby. And then let's roll ourselves down, knees into the chest. We'll take a happy baby here. Hands come to the outsides of the feet, or pointer and middle fingers come to the big toe. Pull the elbows down inside the knees and draw both knees and elbows down towards the floor. Try to pull that low back down to the floor. Beautiful. And pull these feet in. And let's put these feet down. Mat width distance, knees kickstand together in center for a constructive rest for just a moment here. Feel this opening up, that low back. finding space in the pelvis. Good. And from here, let's take these feet back to stack underneath the knees. We're going to slip this right foot underneath the left knee, bringing that right heel over towards the left hip. If you can, find that right foot with the left hand, pull it nice and close to the left glute, and put that right knee down on the mat, pointing towards the top of the room. This will get into that right quad and hip flexor in a reclined position, a little bit more passive of a stretch. If this isn't quite enough, or you're feeling like you could use a little bit more, lift that left foot and draw it into the chest, finding it with the right hand, pulling it in. Breathe in and out through the nose, reminding your body that it is safe, it is supported. And then from there, if that left foot is lifted, bring it back down. Extend this right leg long, finding a release. And let's cross this left leg over the right side of the body, coming into a twist. Left shoulder stays down, look over that left shoulder. As you twist that left leg over to the right, getting a little bit of a counter. And a release from that quad stretch. And then come back into center. Let's pull both knees in. Find neutral. And then extend, put both feet in the floor. Knees bent. And this time we're slipping this left heel underneath the right knee, finding that foot with the right hand and pulling that left heel as close into the bum as we can. The left knee goes down on the mat, finding the quad and hip flexor stretch. And if this isn't quite enough for you, or you just want a little bit more, don't go past this if you're struggling to breathe. You want your breath to be that gauge of whether you've gone too far in your body. But if you feel like there's still more space, lift that right knee in, find it with the left hand, pull it into the chest. Make sure you're breathing. It's likely you'll have one side that's tighter than the other. No judgment to that. Just notice so that you can know how to nurture your body in the imbalances that you have. You can't do anything about them unless you're aware of them first. A few more breaths here. Moving into this space your body is releasing and creating. And put this right foot back down if it's lifted. And extend this left leg long. Pulling this right knee in, crossing it over the body, finding a twist for your release. Gaze can drop over to the right, right shoulder is rooted to the floor. Good, bring yourself back up through center. Ease into chest. And for our last little thing here, we'll need one block. We're going to push our feet into the floor again. Lift the hips just high enough to slip the lowest setting of the block underneath the hips. And then we're going to take the feet together, knees out in a Supta Baddha Konasana, but with the hips lifted. See how this feels with that block beneath the sacrum, finding a little bit of lift in the hips away from the floor. This external rotation in our Supta Baddha Konasana with our legs is helping to release those joints and open up where those hip flexors and quads connect. Just 3 more breaths. And take those hands to support the outer legs as you lift knees to center, heel toes, feet back to hip width distance. Push into the floor, engage the core, lift the hips up, and slide the block out. Let's bring that back to flat. And from here, just sway those knees left and right like we did when we first began. Notice if there's a little bit less tension or a little less pulling in those quads as you sway here. Now that we've done a little bit of work for the quads and hip flexors. You can take your final rest either in that constructive rest with feet mat width distance, knees in, You can take a Supta Baddha Konasana without the block beneath you, knees wide, feet together. Or you can come into that traditional final resting pose of Shavasana. Feet long, palms face up, and eyes are closed. Whichever final resting pose you chose. I want you to scan through the body. Notice the spaces that might still be holding tension. But exhale and release whatever tension is dislodged enough to let go of. There's no need to hold on. Feel the pulse moving in the body. Feel the air moving in and out of the lungs. Feel the moisture inside the mouth. And feel the earth beneath you and the air and temperature around you on your skin. Take one more moment of stillness. Completely surrendering to this moment. From here, I invite you to either stay in your Shavasana for as long as you'd like, or if you'd like to close out this practice with me, start to wiggle the toes and fingers, bringing life back to the body, rotating in the wrists and the ankles. And inhaling arms all the way up overhead and eventually curling into a little ball in fetal position over to the right side, pulling that head with the arm. And pressing yourself up into your seat. Find your seat, shoulders stacked over hips. Notice how your body is feeling. Ground down, connect with the breath, shoulders stacked over hips. We'll take these hands to heart center, thumbs brushed at heart. Feel that connection between internal and external. A reminder that this practice goes with us wherever we go. Let's take an inhale. And an exhale, a little bow towards yourself, towards each other. Thank you so much for practicing with me on your mat today. I hope that your quads and hip flexors feel a little bit better. Whenever you're feeling tight in those areas in the body, these are some great stretches you can do for them. Come back to this practice whenever you need. Thank you. If you enjoyed this class, make sure you check out all of my other videos on my YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe so that you're the first to know when they drop. I also have an online yoga library with hundreds of classes that you can access at the link in the description below. Again, thank you. I'll see you on the mat again soon. Namaste.